welcome audience. This is Randal Owen from Everman, Texas, originally. He went to Everman High School.
Right.
And then later on he attended Dallas Baptist College. And then he became a mailman for something like 30 years.
31 years.
And then retired. What year did you retire?
2012.
2012, okay. Now, you went through school at Dallas Baptist College for a little while, and you were rooming with our friend David Kirk.
Correct, yeah.
And then you just disappeared.
Yeah. Well, there was a reason for that. I graduated from TCJ's, Tarrant County Junior College. I got an associate's degree, and then I bounced over to Texas Wesleyan for a bit, and then Dallas Baptist. I was pursuing a sociology degree, and I stopped one semester short of graduating, and it was because by that point all I was doing is living in the library in my dorm room doing research papers. That's all you did at that point in a sociology degree. It was all about research papers, and I just got burnt out on it, just totally burnt out. And I was working full-time at a job that I thought had career possibilities, and so I thought, I can't do this anymore. I'm sick of the library. I'm sick of researching things. I'm just going to go to this job. Now, it turns out it's a bad move. I quit the job like 6 months later, and then they went out of business, so there was no future there. But that's the reason I didn't graduate. I got burned out, and I decided I can always go back, right? Sure. But no, I never went back.
So you went to DBC, and then this job came up.
What happened, I left DBC because I was working at a place called Wilson's Jewelers. And I thought I was on the fast track, but again, I left after a while. I went from there to Medical Plaza Hospital. I was working in the purchasing department. And I was really happy there. That was a great job. I loved working there. It didn't pay a whole lot, but it was okay. And then the post office called. I had taken the post office exam almost 2 years earlier, and I'd actually forgotten I even took the test. And they called and asked if I was interested, and I said I wasn't because I'm happy at the hospital. And I just said, by the way, how much do you pay?
Yeah.
And then I was very interested after that because it would double my wages.
And that's why you went to the post office?
That's it.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, not long after that, you got married.
Yeah, it was just, let's see, married in '82, so yeah, just a year after joining the Postal Service, I got married.
Randall married Joy.
Correct.
And what was Joy's maiden name?
Winters.
And then they had 2 kids.
Yeah, Andy and Chelsea.
And they're both grown now.
Yes, yeah.
And they have their own families now.
They do. They've given us 4 grandkids, 2 boys, 2 girls. We've got Phoenix, Dominic are the boys, and Lenora and Finley are the girls.
Oh, okay.
And they are the best of the best.
Okay. Well, who are your son-in-law and daughter-in-law?
Son is Ishmael Kakuta, and the daughter-in-law is Lauren.
Okay. Well, you have a big family now.
Yeah, bigger than it was, yeah.
So how old were you when you started the post office?
24.
So were you looking for a career or just a job?
You know, when I saw what it paid, I saw a career right there, because I thought, why would I want to do anything else? You get to be outside. It pays very well, and so yeah. Once I did the interview and got the job, I said, "This is my career. This is what I'm going to do." And actually, that first day, they went over the retirement, how long you have to be here to retire, and I had it in my mind that first day that I would retire due to my age and years of service. I would retire on June 27th. 2012. I missed it by 3 days. I retired on June 30th, 2012, but that was close.
Wow.
But yeah, I always had big picture in mind. I was going to work for the post office until I'm 55, and then work at other jobs, jobs that I enjoy more until I'm about 70. Okay. And I figured by then I'd be ready to quit working.
All right. Did you ever have a route at the post office that you considered to be normal?
Well, okay, the route I'm going to describe to you was not normal at all, but it was really enjoyable. It was probably my favorite route ever. It was called a foot route. And what that is, you don't have a vehicle. You put the mail for certain streets in these huge bags, and someone takes them out to the street and puts them in these large green boxes.
Right.
And as a mailman, you do what's called following the mail.
Right.
And so you would leave the office, and the mail trail would lead to one of these green boxes.
And you didn't have a vehicle?
No vehicle. And I really enjoyed that because it was a manageable route. I didn't have to deliver any packages, because where am I going to put packages? Yeah. It was a fair 8-hour route. It was back in Everman where I grew up. I knew a lot of the people there. I really enjoyed that route. It wasn't what I'd consider normal, but it was a really good route.
Well, did they have stores along the way and bathrooms?
No, that's where knowing the people came in handy, because I would knock on a few doors now and then. And one other thing, in the event of a sudden thunderstorm, those green boxes were big enough you could actually fit in there just to get out of the rain for a few minutes.
Oh, yeah, I don't see those boxes much anymore.
No, I don't think they exist. No.
And you enjoyed your job at first because you were young and healthy and was able to get out and walk all day.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, now here's how about you in management? Did you get along with management at first?
At first, I would say so. I was low man on the pole, so I always got the bad routes. And, you would have run-ins with management now and then about, maybe you could have got back a little sooner, that sort of thing. But it wasn't ever anything really bad at first. And that changed over the years. So it was, I got along with management fine until probably the mid-90s, when the job description changed quite a bit. And then you had much more confrontational relationship with management. Yeah. I never really got used to that, because in most jobs I've had before then, and certainly jobs I've had in retirement, we're all in it together.
Right.
We're all pulling in the same direction.
Right.
But with the post office, it was very
contentious,
adversarial. We were enemies. I had some really good managers over the years, really good. But once upper management got wind of that, the attitude would be, well, we can't have happy employees. Let's get this manager out of here and put a drill sergeant in. And so out of my 31 years, at least 20 of them, I had a very bad relationship with management. And to illustrate, I got a couple of examples. I actually, this doesn't make me look too good, but I actually threatened physical violence with one of my supervisors. And I actually could have gotten a lot of trouble for that, but he understood it was a...
Well, he must have pushed you to a point.
Yeah, he did.
That's called harassment.
Yeah, let's go with that.
What happened?
Okay, we'd had some words, and I took him by the arm, and I said, let's go out to the parking lot. And he asked me why. And I said, because what I'm about to do to you, you don't want people seeing it. And so he said, I don't think I'm going anywhere with you. And so we had that. And then we had, I had a station manager who told me I was not allowed to take office breaks in the office. She told me to go out to my truck, take my breaks in the truck. When I asked why, she said, because I can't stand the sight of you. which it was a blow to my ego. But, and then on my way out the door, I said, what am I supposed to do in my truck? And she said, I don't know, take up reading. So I did. Right after work, I went to Half Price Books and picked up a book called The Dead Zone. And I started reading that on my breaks, and it developed a love for reading. And so she actually did me a favor. And then, as a result of my love for reading, I came across this incredible book, Lovely Chocolate Mob. And
yeah, tell us about that.
Oh, a fantastic book, incredible. But no, I still read every chance I get, and I have her to thank for that.
Well, so tell us about the change, the job change.
Yeah,
you got along with management until that point.
Yeah. Okay. What happened was, when you first start out as a mailman, there's a certain amount of skill involved. You have a bunch of mail brought to your workstation, and you put it in order as quickly as you can, and then you go out and deliver it. Well, the setup back then, where I started out, was you would be allotted about 3.5, 4 hours in the office to get all your mail in order, and then maybe 4 hours on the street. Well, in 1994, all that changed because we had something introduced to us called delivery point sequencing, in which a lot of the mail would come to us already in order.
Right.
It was supposed to be in order.
Sure.
So management decided that you don't need 3 or 4 hours in the office. You need maybe a half hour, an hour, and 7 hours on the street. Now that made it much more difficult because 7 hours in the Texas heat is a lot tougher than 4 hours.
Sure.
But beyond that, the expectations were unrealistic because management would refuse to acknowledge that this mail that came to you supposedly in order had many mistakes in there. And you would have to backtrack, and you'd have to go a couple of streets back.
Machines don't make mistakes.
Of course they don't. And so it would take longer than what they projected. And of course it was always our fault. You know, they didn't want to hear any excuses. And I understand management's pressure they were under because their bosses are telling them, this is what we expect from you. Unrealistic as it may be, they would just pass it down to us. And there's no one for us to pass it down to, so we just got to take it. And I just felt like when they got just extremely unreasonable, making demands like, oh, I would come in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon off my route, and they would say, we've got 2 more hours for you to carry, and I want you to be back by 5. And I would say, the instructions you gave me are impossible. It's 1 hour until 5 o'clock, and you gave me 2 hours of work. And I would be met with just this screaming, I don't want to hear it, just do it. And so that would lead into confrontations and just really harsh words. And
it didn't get better.
It didn't get better.
It never got better.
It never got better.
Even as you had 30 years in with them, you didn't get any more respect or anything like that toward the end?
No, not at all.
It's not like it got worse.
You know, in a lot of ways it did. I'll tell you how bad it was when I retired. 2 weeks after I retired, I got diagnosed with cancer.
Oh.
And just a couple of weeks after that, in the midst of starting the cancer treatments and all that horrible ordeal, my wife tells me, I've never seen you so calm and relaxed. So even cancer couldn't take away the joy from getting away from the post office. It was, the longer I stayed there, the worse it got, because nothing, and it wasn't just me, that was the environment.
Sure.
Nothing you did was good enough. You were just met with constant criticism. And it gets old after a while. You know, I always tell people, you can be a mailman for a day, a week, a month, a couple of years, but this is not a good career move. 30 years of that will beat you down.
Yes, you'll be beaten down.
Yeah. You get beaten down by the weather, being outside so much, and you get beaten down by the constant criticism and negativity. And it just, I was never so glad to get away from a place.
Well, do you have nightmares?
Yes, I do.
Tell me about the nightmares.
The nightmares are always some variation of this. For some reason, I'm leaving the office at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I've got 7 hours worth of mail to deliver, and the boss yells at me, "Make sure you're back by 5." It's always some variation of that dream, and you try to reason with them. Well, I can't be back by 5, but you see it's already 3 o'clock. I don't care, be back by 5. And the dreams are always something along those lines.
Well, you know, you seem to be a reasonable guy, a kind of person that can get along with anybody that he works with.
Seems that way.
Except the people that are over you. Now, if they're nice, you can get along with them.
Yeah.
And if they're reasonable, then you can get along with that.
Yes.
And if they're realistic, you can get along with that.
Yes.
But if they're antagonistic,
I don't react well to that.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Now, I don't want to paint every manager with that brush. Some were good, really good. But, and I'm serious about this. You're going to say it's sour grapes. I'm serious about this. Higher-ups would come out there, and they would see that we all getting along, we all cooperate, and they didn't like that. They felt like the manager has to be very, very stern. If you enjoy your job, if you enjoy your manager, then something's wrong. And that manager would get relocated. And it was a very toxic environment. But I'll tell you, one good manager I had, there was a time, 4 or 5 years in the mid to late 80s, I really enjoyed my job. I didn't just tolerate it. I looked forward to going in. It was fun. It was that route it was the foot route. And just a great relationship with the employees and the manager. The manager just had one rule. He said, just put forth an honest effort and I'll stay off your back. Great, great work environment. And it led to the funniest thing that ever happened to me in the post office, a great memory, is working there during that time, we would play pranks on each other.
They don't like that.
The manager, he loved it because he would be in on them. And I was on vacation one time, and when I got back, as soon as we all hit the clock, the manager had an announcement to make. He said, "This comes from the higher-ups. I don't like this any more than you guys do, but we're going to have to do a locker check to make sure no one is stashing away someone's Social Security checks, anything like that." And so I thought, well, that's kind of an odd request, but we'll go along with it. And so everyone is opening their locker one by one. And I get to mine, and these guys, and of course the manager was in on it, they had stuffed like 20 bundles of throwaway bulk mail in there. As soon as I opened the door, it all came spilling out. The manager looks at me with this stern face and he says, "Mr. Owen, we've got a problem here." Just like to die laughing. But that was a fun time. But man, there weren't many of those. For the most part, it was just a very antagonistic relationship. It's really odd. You know, every other job I've had, they encourage employees to get along with each other, to get along with management.
Yeah.
We're all in this together. And it just wasn't like that with the post office. It's just, you're smiling, you're laughing? Oh, we can't have that.
It's a war zone.
Yeah. And my retirement, actually, I was planning on actually carrying my route that day. And after I cased it up and we had the little, retirement thing and gave a little speech and whatever, I went back to my case and he came over. This was my sworn enemy. He said, "Just go on home." And I said, "Am I going to get paid for the day?" And he said, "Yes, just go. Get out of here." So, fine with me.
Well, now, did you move? You moved from Everman to Fort Worth.
Well, yeah, actually, Everman is considered part of Fort Worth. I actually started out in Grapevine.
Oh.
That is not considered part of Fort Worth. And so I started out there and had to actually transfer to Fort Worth. And I think my first stop was Everman. And then I was just bouncing all over town. I probably every station in Fort Worth except maybe a couple I worked at one time or another, because you're always looking for a better route.
I remember running into you out there at the seminary.
Yeah.
In that neighborhood out there.
Yeah.
Hey, that looks like Randal Owen.
That was, yeah. Yeah.
That was back around 82, 83.
Yeah, that was very early in my postal career.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You looked like you were enjoying it.
At that time I was. I thought it was a great job. In fact, the jobs I'd had previous to that, I would kind of overthink things, and I would think, this isn't a real job because I'm having fun. And when I got to the post office, I thought, oh, all that's going to change. This is going to be a big-time job. But a couple of years into it, I'm still saying, I still really hadn't worked a job yet because I'm having a good time.
You were smiling and walking down the walking down the street, walking on the yard.
It was great. It was great.
Well, now, what kind of people, in your opinion, make up the post office that you worked with?
Well, boy, all kinds. I mean, you had every kind of race, gay and straight, left and right. That part actually got me to where I had better relationship with people who weren't just like me. And I came to the realization, if everyone in the world was just like me, it would be a very boring world. We had very different opinions, races, sexual orientations in the post office, and you either get along or you got a big problem.
Yeah.
So I got along with them okay.
Okay. Yeah. You never got in a fight with another mailman?
No. My patience with guys who would intentionally go slow just so they wouldn't have to do as much work, that led to some, harsh words.
Well, that made work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I figured if you want to drag your feet all day and it doesn't affect me, go ahead. But when I get in off my route and then the boss says, whoever said they're going to be running really late, go out and give them a hand. Oh, I didn't like that because I had carried those routes before. I knew they were easy, and I knew the guys were just dragging their feet. And I let them know that I didn't appreciate, I should be home right now, not helping you. If you just do your job, you'd be done by now too. So
you're cutting into your life.
Yeah. So,
were you involved in the union?
Yeah. I don't know how heavily involved you'd say. I didn't go to too many meetings. I had a brief stint as assistant shop steward, but there wasn't much asked of me. I was a union member for my entire time because I thought they were responsible for the good pay we were getting. And so I thought, well, the least I can do is pay union dues and hope they keep the money coming. But I wasn't a real big fan of the union because, on the one hand, I would give them credit for our wages. On the other hand, it seemed like they were just fixated on keeping deadbeats on the payroll, people who did not deserve a job, people I was having to go out and help after. But yeah, there were many people that, they didn't deserve the job. They were lazy, just horrible workers, and I would have liked to see them get fired. And there were many managers who would like to see me get fired, but
they're protecting you too.
Yeah. In fact, this is I hadn't even thought of this. I got a call from our union president in the Fort Worth chapter at home one night, and I had an incident earlier in the day that I thought there might be some repercussions here. And she called me and said, I want you to know that we're going to get your job back for you. You're going to have a few weeks off, but we'll get your job back with back pay. They can't make this stick. I said, what are you talking about? And she said, oh, they didn't tell you you've been fired? No. And she said, oh, I guess they will tomorrow. But she had been notified of it. So I go in the next day, and I go storming into the manager's office. And I said, You're firing me? You're going to fire me? And he said, well, I wanted to, but the higher up said I couldn't make it stick, so just go to work.
What was that all about?
Well, it was, you know, we had these scanners.
Sure.
And it had been raining some during the day, but all I had on was that rain cape to protect me.
Okay.
And then it starts just pouring down.
Okay.
And so I thought, okay, I'm going to have to put on these rain pants because I'm getting soaked. I hate the rain pants because they're very hot, and this was during the summer. So I'm fumbling around with these rain pants, and my scanner falls out, and it goes down one of these storm drains. So I know this is bad news. So I pull off the manhole cover real quick and jump down in there to see if I can retrieve it. And no, the current had already swept it down. So I ran down there to the next one. Oh, okay, it's going this way. I pulled up the next manhole cover and jumped down there. Probably, if anyone was watching, I'm sure it was really comical. But I knew the scanner was probably ruined.
Sure.
But if I could just get it, I could just, I could tell my boss, well, you just stopped working. I don't know what happened here. Yeah. But I never could find it.
Wow.
And so, you know, I went in and told him that.
Wow.
And obviously, he wasn't very happy about it. I didn't think it was a fireable offense.
No,
but
it's $500. They want to. Yeah, they're pouring a lot of money into that, and they want results, you know.
But he called the union president and said, just giving you a heads up, I'm firing this guy. But I guess he ran it by his superiors, and they said, nah, you can't make that stick. So I kept my job.
Good.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know, you got a change right next to drains. You got to work next to drains.
Yes.
So that's what happens.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes that happens.
Honest mistake. You know, accidents happen.
Yeah, they do. It's like, accidents do happen. That's why they call them accidents.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, did you have any dog problems?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Now, I got bit during my career probably about 10 or 15 times, but only one was really bad. And I didn't report any of the others because it's paperwork, it's how could you let this happen, you know, this must have been your fault. So I just wouldn't report them. But this one was so bad, this chow got out, and boy, he just latched on. And my leg was bleeding a lot, and it was getting all over my socks and shoes, and I was afraid of a possible infection, so I thought, I'm going to have to turn this in. So I went to the office and told them about it, and they said, well, they sent me to a doctor, and it got all taken care of. And when I came in for work the next day, they said, we're going to have you carry a different route today. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, I just think it'd be a good idea. That's all they said. And so they put me on this other route that was actually a lot easier than mine. And so well, okay, fine with me. And then they did it the next day. And I thought, well, this is odd. And the girl that had carried my route the previous 2 days, she said, ooh, you in a lot of trouble? And I said, why is that? And she said, the owner of that dog, the dog pound picked him up, and they're keeping him at the pound, and they say he's got to pay a $200 fine.
So?
And he said he is going to take it out of your hide next time he sees you.
Oh, he's crazy.
And he actually, it turns out, I didn't find out about this till later, he had actually called into the post office and said, the next time he sees me, he's going to kill me. And so they didn't, I kept saying, why am I not on my route? And they would never tell me. But a week went by, and I guess they figured by then I was expendable. If he's going to kill me, he'll kill me. So, but they said, yeah, go on back out there. And so we had a little interaction once I got out there. But I'm still alive, so he didn't kill me.
What was the interaction about?
Well, he drove by as I was walking down the street, and he yelled something out his car window, and it was very threatening and very vulgar. So I follow him down to the street. He can't get off his street because there's too much traffic. And he didn't realize that when he was hollering at me, but he was stuck there. And so I just went up to his car, and I figured early on, the best way to get out of a fight is act like you're eager to fight. And so I bluffed my way through that. I stuck my head in his car window, which was rolled down. I got about 6 inches from his face, and I said, "Say it again." And he said, "What?" And I said, "What you just said when you drove by me. Just say it again." And he said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he said, "Have you got some kind of problem?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess I do. I guess my hearing's bad. So why don't you turn off your engine, step out of your car, and say it again?" And he said, "I got somewhere to be." Traffic cleared, he drove off, and I never heard another word from him.
Good choice.
Now, the problem, if he had stepped out of the car, I didn't have a plan beyond that point. I didn't want to fight the guy, but I bluffed my way through it.
We let him know that you don't like what he had to say,
yeah.
At least.
Or maybe I did like it. I kept asking him to say it again.
Did you ever see anybody arrested at the post office?
I did, yeah. He had been suspected of stealing on his route. Now, I didn't know this at the time, obviously, so the postal inspector set him up. They sent out a letter to someone that had obvious value in there to see if he would take the bait.
Oh.
And he did.
Oh.
And the ironic thing about this is he was trying to buy an album from me, this other carrier. I wanted $12 for it. And he said, $12? No one's going to give you that, you thief. And he's the one that gets arrested. But yeah, they came in and said, "You're done, and you know why you're done. Let's just not make a scene."
And we've got it on videotape.
Yeah. So that was the end of him.
So how many years did he have in?
Not that many. It was he probably had in maybe 4 or 5.
Okay. How many people have you seen fired over the years?
That's the only one. It's tough to fire someone from the post office.
Yeah, it is.
Now, I did see something that was just, it was heartbreaking, because postal management knows they can't fire you unless you're caught in the act of stealing or harming someone. I don't know what actual grounds are for firing. But he wanted this guy out. And so he just decided he would make life miserable for him, and it was tough to watch. It was tough to watch, and I'd go over to the guy now and then and I said, "Don't quit. Not unless you have another career in mind. Don't quit. You've got a mortgage. You've got a wife and kids. Don't do this." And he just said, "I don't know much longer I can take this."
They messed with your mind.
And then he disappeared. And actually he I told him not to do this. He came back a couple of weeks later and said, "Hey, I made a mistake. I want my job back." Oh. And the boss said, "No,
too late.
You're done."
Yeah. Do you miss the post office?
No.
Well, that was pretty quick.
Not a bit.
How about the people you work with?
Okay, here's the thing about that. Your experience might have been different. Mine was, everyone that worked there was miserable. So it didn't start out that way, because the job was different in the beginning. But towards the end, everyone just hated being there. So there weren't a lot of friendships. You'd have a little chat with the guy that works next to you. That's about it. Yeah. So the people, not really.
They were all looking out for each other. I mean, for themselves.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
We used to look out for each other. But then at the end, we were just looking out for number
every
one.
man for himself.
I used to go into work with blinders. At one place, when I switched over to a new office, I didn't talk to anybody for 6 months.
Oh my goodness!
If I could help it, I wouldn't talk to anybody. And then I started lightening up a little bit. But that was so bad. I had a bad post office, and I went to another one thinking it's going to be the same way. So.
Well, the funny thing is, after I retired, and I worked at these part-time jobs, suddenly I had a ton of friends. It was the people I worked with. And they'd come over to the house now and then. They would invite me and Joy to the parties. It was great. And Joy asked me, "How is it you have so many friends now and you didn't the whole time you worked at the post office?" I said, because we all hated being there. There was no camaraderie. There was no laughing. We all just hated it.
That says a lot about the post office culture.
Yeah, it does.
Tell you what. And I'm not looking to slam the post office. I like the post. I mean, I like having a job. But
listen, yeah, if we'd gotten that bad, I could have walked away at any point, and I didn't. So I guess it wasn't that bad, but it was not a good work environment.
Well, I'll tell you what. I want you to look into the camera. This is for the future of America.
Okay, all right.
What would you like to tell the youth about working for the post office? What should they expect if they do? And how should they carry themselves?
Seriously, first thing I'd say is don't do it. I mean that. I mean, if you're just looking for, the pay is still good. If you just want to work there for a few months, sock some money away, a couple of years, okay. But don't make a career out of it, because it's a dying business. And, I've been hearing that for a long time, and it's still going. But it's a failed business model, and we lose money every day. The revenue that is brought in is not anywhere near close to the overhead, the wages that are paid. It can't stay afloat forever. Don't make this a career choice. It won't be a good one. But if you're going to ignore that, if you're going to forge ahead, get a career at the post office, a couple of things. Have a thick skin, because you're going to get beaten down by management. Nothing you do is going to be good enough. I know that this paints a very bleak picture, but this is from 31 years. I've seen it all. If you have a mindset to do a good job, and this leads to number 2, which would be pace yourself. Have thick skin, be able to take criticism without getting personal, and pace yourself. Because if you give in to management, and when they say, hurry, 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 I need you back earlier, I need you back earlier, and you get in on their good side, it's going to be really good for a while. And then you'll get the talk from the manager that says, I am so proud of you, and I've been there. You are doing great. You're so much better than these other guys that I know we can add 100 stops to your route, and you're going to be just fine. And then if somehow you manage to absorb those 100 extra stops, then you're going to get that same talk the next year. And they'll just keep piling on more and more and more. And you've got to just say, I'll put up with the yelling, but I'm not going to skip my lunch, skip my breaks, take shortcuts on the route that result in a drop-off in accuracy. Don't do that. Just pace yourself. Honest day's work for your pay. And, whatever management says, try to forget about it when you go home, because it most likely won't be nice.
Okay. Well, thank you, Randall. Appreciate it. Thank you for 31 years.
Oh, sure.
There we go.
It has provided a nice retirement. I mean, I'm enjoying things now,
good.
so yeah,
okay.
we're good.
You still work part-time jobs just because you want to?
Yeah. Now, if I chose just to not work at all, I'd probably have to lower my standard of living, which isn't real high anyway, but I'd have to cut out a few things. But I didn't want to stop working anyway, not for another 7 or 8 years.
Now you enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm at a job that I love.
Yeah. Well, you worked for like seven or 8 years at a pet shop.
PetSmart.
Yeah, and you got to play with the pugs.
Oh yeah. The PetSmart Pet Hotel, great job, just great job. I was there for 7 years, and just decided. I never intended to just work one job after I retired. I wanted to do a few different things. And so I decided 7 years of, picking up after dogs is enough, even though it was fun. So I went to the museum, Modern Art Museum. Very dignified, very quiet. I love working there. But after a year, I got to missing the dogs a little bit. So I actually went back to PetSmart, and I worked there 1 or 2 days a week. Still work at the museum, but get my dog fixed too.
Oh, wow, okay.
So,
yeah, you like those dogs.
I do, which is really ironic being a mailman, getting bit so many times, but yeah.
Okay, well, I'll stop it here.
Okay.